Alright, this is Robert reporting again with Republic Rising, and I wanted to comment on something I've seen, and something that's kind of going on within my family, I guess. But a 28-year-old Democratic Socialist just ousted a powerful 10-term congressman in New York. And that kind of goes along with what I wanted to talk about today, which is socialism is for figs. Alright? Not a fan of it. And I'm not happy that I'm seeing people getting elected into office that are admitted socialists and communists. I think that is a disgrace to our American system. I think it shows ignorance of the masses that we have out there right now, because sadly a lot of these votes are coming from millennials right now, people who are, I hate to say it technically, because of when the year begins, when you call millennials. I am one of them, even though I'm on the very outer edge, thankfully. I consider myself, I guess that'd be what Generation Z was right before, or something. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. I don't consider myself a millennial. I don't like how the millennials think. Now, granted, there's handfuls of millennials that I'm a huge fan of, even within a company that I work for, Legal Shield. There's many millennials that are working within that, and those are the ones that I actually like and I could deal with, even if their politics are completely opposite of mine, because they understand the ideas of hard work, and how if you are going to get anything in this life, it's because you went out and got it. Not because it was handed to you, or the government gave it to you, or the state gave it to you, or anything like that, or mama and papa gave it to you. It's because you went out and earned it, and I admire that greatly. But a Democratic socialist just ousted a 10-term congressman in New York. Her name is, I'm going to mispronounce it because it's Spanish, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I believe, a 28-year-old Latina running her first campaign, just beat Joe Crowley in New York's 14th Congressional District. Oh, I'm struggling with words today. As she calls herself, she's an activist and a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. And where I will tip my cap to her is she won a campaign in which Crowley outspent her 10-1. So to win that, that's impressive. So I'll tip my cap to that, but almost nothing else do I like about this chick. Her platform effectively is she wants to abolish ICE, which is leftist speak, or Alinsky speak, for open borders. She wants free public education, which means drastically higher taxes on the people. And, I mean, yeah, she's a socialist. She wants a socialist country. It's despicable. I don't like that in the least. But the reason why this was the topic I wanted to choose today, one is because, well, it happened yesterday, so it's breaking news and all that. Not obviously from me. It's been out for about 24 hours, I believe, something like that. But I had a family member basically tell me that I need to read, or other people in my family need to read, Karl Marx. And that whole thing popped up because I believe it was my mother. She posted a picture, a meme that was like, let's see if I can say it right. In socialist countries, you wait in line for bread. In capitalist countries, bread waits in line for you. And that can't be any truer than, I don't know, that the sky is blue. Alright? Because look at all communist and socialist countries. You effectively have large-ass food lines. Venezuela, it was one of the richest countries on this planet. Like, what, 30, 40, 50 years ago, the saying was to be as rich as a Venezuelan. And not so much anymore, huh? Even though they still have the largest oil reserves. And they can't even feed their own people. They eat their dogs and cats. They've stormed zoos to eat those animals. And they bum rush any government assistance van that comes out with their bread. It is complete chaos down there. People are fleeing it by the boatloads, by the millions. Well, not by the millions there, hundreds of thousands, but whatever. People flee communist countries by the millions. Alright? And where do they go? Do they go to other communist countries? Nope. Do they go to Islamic countries? Nope. They go to Western Judeo-principled countries. Why? Because we came up with this thing called capitalism, where capitalism gives the individual more freedom than any other system on this planet. More freedom than anyone in this book could ever imagine, because you know what comes of the people who follow this doctrine right here. And I don't even need to say Venezuela and all that. Oops, I did. No, you need to read one of the greatest writers, or at least one of the best books of the 20th century, a guy who won the Nobel Peace Prize, alright, for writing a dang book. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, oh my god, I can't even pronounce it. Archipelago, Gulag Archipelago. You can see it. I cannot speak today to save my life. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Gulag Archipelago. There we go. Okay. Terrific book to read. Tells you all about how when communism is acted out in full. And I love how people say, well, it's just communism hasn't been tried the right way. No. Yes, it has. It's been practiced to a T, exactly how it's supposed to be practiced, and it gets the outcome that is always going to come from it. Alright? It destroys. It builds up a very small class where the elites live real well, and everyone else lives in abject poverty. Period. Nowhere can you show me a socialist country that is doing well. And I love how everyone likes to point to like the Scandinavian countries up there where they've got incredibly small populations. Almost completely, what's the word I'm looking for? Not ethnocentric. But they're pretty much all like, they're of their own race. They're all white people, or effectively. It's really small countries that effectively don't even really have to pay for their military, because guess what? America effectively shoulders that bill for most of these countries, alright? The reason why most of these countries can act out so many socialist welfare programs is because America pays for their protection. They pay for their military so they can run all these grand expenditures on their socialist programs, and they still don't work. Alright? All you gotta do is even look up at Canada. It's not working so well up there. Alright? And the best, now don't even take it from me, someone who's pretty much only lived in the southwest of the U.S. I would listen to people who come from Canada, like a Gavin McInnes. You know, listen to him, what he has to say about that. Or even a Steven Crowder. And these aren't guys who even I agree with 100% on everything they say. But they're from there. They could tell you how bad it is. The media will definitely hype it up like it's something beautiful, like, Mr. Justin... I can't say his name with any type of masculinity. I apologize. There's just too much estrogen running right there. Just let me say, Justin. That's the best I can do. Okay, so yeah, that leader that thinks that he can start a trade war with the U.S. in which he puts a tax on some of our products going up north over 200%, and we got nothing on it. Then we just say, hey, alright, we're going to put about a 50% tax on the stuff you're sending our way then, since you're going to put over 200% on it. How dare you? How dare you? It's, you're a freaking joke. See, I can't even say it. But, socialism. Alright, so, what are the ideas that come out of this book that make it so great? Quote, end quote. The 10 planks of Karl Marx is effectively to seize power and destroy freedom, which is what you need to do in the communists, to have a communist society. Learn to speak, Robert. 1. Abolition of property in land and application of all rents of land to public purpose. 2. A heavy progressive or graduated income tax. 3. Abolition of all rights of inheritance. 4. Confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels. 5. Centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. I thought you guys were against monopolies. Oh my. Centralization of the means of communication and transportation at the hands of the state. you're going to notice a handful of these things we already do. That's why people are pissed at the direction we're heading right now, is because we're going by the way of socialism. And it sucks. We need to go back to a free market system of individualism. 7. Extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state, the bringing into cultivation of wastelands, and the improvement of the soil generally in accordance with common plan. Notice how they'll get pretty general on a handful of these things, and the purpose of that is so it can mean whatever they want it to mean when they need it to mean that. 8. Equal liability of all to labor. Establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. Why agriculture? Think about that. Why would they need an army, especially for the agriculture? Combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries. Gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of the population over the country. 10. Free education for all children in public schools. Abolition of children factory labor in its present form. Combination of education with industrial production. And you got to admit, at least that very last piece right there, we do in spades. We combine our educational system with industrial production because we want, as Rockefeller says, I don't want thinkers, I want workers. And that is all our schools do, is train us to be workers and obedient to authority. Why? It is a communist system to keep us in line. So, those are the 10 rules of the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto. And like I said, as you've noticed, we already act out a handful of these. Obviously with the income tax, obviously with the National Bank, and they're trying to take the land and all that stuff, but that's one of the last ones that they're going to do because we've got something that's holding them back from acting that out, and it is called the Second Amendment. That is right. So to the people who think that this is great, and that think that I need to read the Communist Manifesto because acting out these ideas within our society would make this somehow a utopia, you're wrong. It would suck. And you want to know how? You read a book for a change. Read this book. Friedrich Hayek, Road to Serfdom. Alright? And then after that book, I recommend you read one more. And that is Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. Read those 2 books, and then combine what you know that with what the Communist Manifesto asks. Words just don't work with me today. That's what I get for going to the dentist yesterday. Ugh. But, okay. So, and in response to the Communist Manifesto, there's an article I wanted to bring up that was written way back in 1969. By a guy named William Henry Chamberlain. And here, let me do my awesome, this is how skilled I am at computers and all that right now. Here's my overlays. Woo! Overlay. It's called the Capitalist Manifesto. It's obviously his response to the Communist Manifesto. It's from the Foundation for Economic Freedom, so go to fee.org if you wish to read over all this, because obviously I'm going to skip a large part of it. But, yeah, Capitalist Manifesto, June 1st, 1969, William Henry Chamberlain. Alright, and the reason why I want to go to this, as opposed to just riffing on my own on this, is because how he sums it up, it's perfection. It's that pizza you've been waiting for that just slides down your gullet with that little bit of crisp on the bottom for the crust, not too much. It's what you've been waiting for. And so, to all you socialists, God, there's so much of this I would want to read, though. Here is my response to the Communist Manifesto. And they're not my words. They're obviously the words of the guy I just told you. Let's get into it. And I'm still going to kind of skip over a part here or two or there because I am on a time constraint. The Communist Manifesto is based on assumptions that are in some cases unproved, in other cases disproved by the course of historical development. It is time that some individual or group put forward a capitalist manifesto. Thank God he did. Affirming faith in the capitalist as the best, fairest, most efficient and humane method known to human experience for getting the world's work done, especially in the light of the contrasted example and lessons of its collectivist challenger. Such a manifesto would state 6 reasons for the superiority of capitalism based not on doctrine, theories, and dubious assumptions, but on the clear teachings of human experience. So, 1. 2 examples at the opposite end of the world. Tokyo, Germany. Aha, I said that wrong. Hong Kong, Germany. Flip those up, I bet they're happy with that. So these two prove the magic of capitalism in restoring a shattered economy or creating a flourishing oasis of industry and trade which had not existed on anything like the same scale before. The recovery of the Western Germany from hunger, ruin, and apathetic despair after Dr. Ludwig Erhard prescribed his medicine of prosperity through hard work, competition, individual incentive, and return to a maximum freedom of trade was so spectacular that it is still often referred to as the German miracle. To move across the frontier to communist-ruled East Germany was, as a German once said to me, like the transition from day to night. Alright? Hong Kong is a bare island with an adjacent strip mainland, a leased acquisition of Great Britain after one of its 19th century clashes with China. The city has grown enormously since the end of the war, mainly because of the influx of refugees from the communist-ruled mainland. 4 million people are now crammed into the small area. Here is the comment of a recent visitor, an American journalist, William L. White. Quote, "The little city is prosperous beyond belief. The surviving vestige of British colonialism shows what free trade can do if it is left free." That's the key. Alright. In history and ethnic makeup of Hong Kong is very different from the German Federal Republic, but both teach the same lesson. The enormous built-in dynamic of capitalism. Incidentally, Hong Kong is one place where the native population emphatically does not want the British to leave. Might be the only place. 2. Freedom from monopoly saves the capitalist system from hardening of economic... oh god, I read that wrong. Freedom from monopoly saves the capitalist system from hardening of the economic arteries. If one firm turns down the promising scientific or managerial invention, another firm may pick it up and take the lion's share of its market with it. Which is awesome. If one person thinks that, I don't think that this person's really going to be a great leader or something like that, so I'm never going to promote him. In a true free market society, he could shop his wares somewhere else at another up-and-coming branch and be like, hey, I've achieved the highest I can go in this place, but I'd like to go over, you look like you're a rising star and all that. If I join you, I think I could take you to the next level. He should be able to go over there if they offer him that deal. That's free market. In a true, more socialist society, you wouldn't have that type of leverage, effectively. But he's obviously arguing about a slightly different point here, which I also agree with. One of the least and here he gets into it. One of the least convincing arguments for socialism is the occasional appearance of monopoly abuses under free enterprises. Monopoly abuses under capitalism are transitory and self-correcting. If, and here's the key, which shows you how we've kind of broken within our own system that we're not operating a true free market capitalist system. I'll start it again. But monopoly abuses under capitalism are transitory and self-correcting if not induced and sustained by government grants of power. And that's how you'll know you live in a communist society, or at least one that's definitely going towards it, because you will hear them say this of, it doesn't matter any business within that country, but you will hear a government say this. This company is, you'll never hear these 4 words, too big to fail. The second you hear your government start talking about that, you are no longer in a free market society. You are in a controlled, governed society. All right? So, and how many times did the Obama administration use that? That was almost like one of their slang words or something like that. But in a true free market society, I don't care how big you get. If you get like a Bear Stearns, if you get like an Enron, and you screw up, you deserve to fail. That company deserves to crumble. Now, it's going to be bad for the people that that work there at the moment, sure. But then within the free market society, where that that company completely crumbles, there's going to be a void left in the market that people need to take. Those other companies will then take over that, thus needing to hire more people, picking up those people that Enron had to lay off. Free market corrects itself right there. Under socialism or communism, where the state is the sole producer and distributor, these abuses are permanent and irremovable. What an illusion to imagine that the cure for all evils is monopoly is more monopoly. See how he says it? It's just so much better than what I could do. And I like this point too. It is highly significant that it is always the communist-governed countries that are trying to learn from the more advanced capitalist lands. It is never the other way around. In recent years, communism has been playing capitalism the proverbial flattery of attempt of imitation by experimenting with such capitalism devices such as differential wages, emphasis on profits for state enterprises, and so forth. But these feeble imitations will not lead to success. It may safely be predicted so long as the essential ingredients of private ownership and private profit are missing. Number 3. How am I doing on time? Not good. Hurry up. Far from being reactionary and tyrannical in its effects, capitalism, with the diffusion of economic power among millions of owners and investors, large and small, is the only system compatible with the checks and balances, the freedoms of press, the holdings of free elections, and legal guarantees against arbitrary elections of the state authority that make up the essentials of a free society. Whew, it's a mouthful, but God, you see... There's just so much you said right there. I wish I could unpack it all, but once again, I'm slightly short on time. Communist regimes have been set up in various countries and under various circumstances, but it is surely significant that not one of these states can pass a free election test. There are various candidates that may compete with the spoken and printed word. But it is surely significant that not one of these states can pass the free election test, where various candidates may compete with the spoken and printed word, and without fear of the policeman's knock as a result. All you gotta do is look at Mexico for that. How many of their presidential candidates and congressional candidates that were running were murdered by the mafia because they espoused the wrong view? And trust me, the majority of... You want to talk about white elitists running the country? Look down in Mexico, alright? You don't see any Mexicans up in the top parts of their government, alright? It's all blonde hair, white, fair-skinned people, alright? Oh yeah, he goes in further on that, makes an even deeper point, but I gotta keep going. Number 4, anyone who cherishes freedom should be a convinced upholder of the capitalist or individualist economy. For freedom is the very nature of capitalism, as compulsion is an integral aspect of an attempt to put Marx into his practice. The degrees of pressure on the individual in a collectivist society to do what the state dictates, rather than what he may choose to do or not, vary from the frightful brutality of slave labor, concentration camps, to milder methods. But the pressure is always there. Not the least of the merits of capitalism is that it leaves the individual alone to work at whatever may attract him, to be a hobo or to be a hippie. You can choose. You can't in a communist society. 5. Capitalism is no utopian system. Alright, that is key right there that the leftists need to understand. One, no one, at least no one of right brain, will claim that capitalism is the utopian system, alright? The thing is, there is no such thing as a utopian governmental system. It doesn't exist. Now, you can try to work towards the utopian ideal, but there is no utopian government system. Stop trying to make one. Well, I wouldn't say that, stop trying to make one, but stop trying to pretend that socialism is one. There. Okay, so capitalism is no utopian system, as it does not promise the earth, the moon, the stars to those who live within it. It does promise them freedom to choose between material and non-material objectives. It assures them that, subject to vicissitudes and accidents that are in their nature uncontrollable, they will go as far, by and large, as their abilities, diligence, and aptitude carry them. And that's how it should be. You should only go as far as your skills will allow you to go, or as hard as you are willing to work. You should not get something just because of what your name is, or because, well, my father's in this system, so he's going to bring me right on in. No, that's not how things work. You don't get shit handed to you in a free society. You only get given opportunity, not results. Period. Not to be utopian, it may seem a rather negative tribute, yet it is doubtful whether more or less consciously evil men have inflicted as much suffering as have utopian idealists, enjoying periods of absolute power and prepared to turn life into hell for the present on the doubtful prospect that it may be heaven for future generations. And that's one tactic that they absolutely used to love. We want to tax you now, and yeah, we're going to make your life horrible now, but it's for the kids, because in the future their life will be good. It doesn't work that way. It never has. It never will. It's we need to work to make today better, and tomorrow will be better because of it. And 6, I'm running out of time. Last one. There's a widespread feeling that while capitalism may be useful and efficient, it is somehow sordid and lacking in moral inspirational appeal. But on closer view, a philosophy that has given the world the wonderful device of the free market that makes possible the checks and balances of which a free society depends, that diffuses economic power as a free society diffuses political power, that avoids the cruelties of compulsion and the illusions of state planning, that steers clear of utopianism, such as a system is by no means lacking in moral appeal, especially if one fairly examines its alternatives. In that connection, worth remembering is a saying of the late William Ropke. I can't pronounce that name. It's the R-O with the 2 dots above it, P-K-E. One of the most brilliant exponents of economic freedom and as indispensable for all other kinds of freedom. Here's his quote. While the last resort of the competitive economy is the bailiff, the ultimate sanction of the planned economy is the hangman. And that's just plain and simple right there. Now, there's a couple other points I wanted to get into, but I do not have the time to do it. But I will just throw this out there. We have been a communist society, or at least drastically running towards one since 1933, thanks to the New Deal, and it was under, obviously, that presidency, Theodore and Woodrow, was where it obviously came out in the 1930s. These two presidents, as Judge Napolitano, who wrote this book, Theodore and Woodrow, would say is the reason why America is the shithole it's becoming right now is because they helped bring in a socialist America. That was their plan. That is what they wanted to do. And it's coming to fruition, sadly. But thankfully, Trump is trying to overturn it. We're trying to go back to a free society, which is why you see our economy starting to explode. He's eliminating regulations. He's getting these bureaucrats out of the way for us to live our damn lives. And look what it's doing. We have a GDP that is nearing 4%. All right? The highest Obama ever got, it was barely over 1. It was, I mean, these are levels near the Reagan numbers, and Trump is going to surpass it. Free market capitalism is the answer. Free market capitalism is the answer. So yes, family member, I don't want to oust you by name or anything, family member that told us to read Karl Marx, I've read it. I think it's abhorrent. Freedom and individualism will always be the better choice. Government compulsion will never, ever be the choice. So I hope you do read those 2 books that I recommend, The Road to Serfdom by Friedrich Hayek, and also Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. And then get back to me. Tell me what you think after you read those. Do you still have the same views? Do you think I'm dumb for still carrying these ideas and all that stuff? Let me know. Say me up in the comments. I'll respond. But don't come at me with feelings. I won't respond to those. So let's always remember, socialism is for figs. Yeah.